After 13 consecutive days of pounding Iranian military infrastructure, the United States suddenly stopped firing. As the dust settled over the region, global energy markets breathed an immediate sigh of relief. News outlets and financial traders quickly interpreted this halt in operations as a breakthrough. The assumption was that Washington and Tehran had finally agreed to lay down their arms and step back from the brink of war. But look at the physical disposition of U.S. forces. Not a single ship has left the theater. This floating airfield and its accompanying strike groups are still sitting right off the coast. Naval commanders haven't ordered their combat aircraft to stand down. Instead, they are holding their advanced strike positions, keeping their crosshairs locked on Iranian targets, waiting for the order to fire. If the American military is perfectly positioned to launch another massive wave of attacks, why would the commander-in-chief suddenly order them to stop? The White House is currently testing whether 2 weeks of heavy bombardment has generated enough leverage to force a deal, trading active strikes for a high-stakes diplomatic opening. During the initial phase of the campaign, American air power methodically dismantled Iran's high-value infrastructure. They crippled critical logistics hubs and degraded the systems used to launch advanced missiles across the Middle East. This chart shows how battlefield math shifted by day 13. The Pentagon destroyed the most dangerous targets, leaving lower-tier facilities with less payoff. As airstrike value dropped, risk accelerated. Continuing the tempo meant spending millions for very little tactical advantage. Meanwhile, every new explosion dramatically increased the odds of a miscalculation. A stray missile or an unexpected Iranian retaliation could easily pull neighboring allies, particularly Israel, into an uncontainable multi-front war. The United States had squeezed every drop of strategic advantage it could out of a purely kinetic campaign. Continuing to drop bombs wouldn't strengthen America's position. It would expose them to unacceptable risks. Extracting leverage from a bombing campaign requires someone to negotiate with. The problem is that Washington and Tehran do not have formal diplomatic relations. They can't simply pick up the phone and call each other. To bridge that gap, messages have to flow through a trusted third party. For decades, the neutral ground for these high-stakes conversations has been Muscat, Oman, where diplomats quietly ferry terms between the two adversaries. Through this backdoor channel, officials have agreed to a highly fragile, informal arrangement. There is no signed treaty, only a mutual understanding. Iran will hold its retaliatory fire as long as the U.S. keeps its bombers grounded. The scope of these negotiations is broad. According to U.S. Ambassador to the UN Mike Waltz, they involve everyone from technical officials drafting confidence-building measures to the highest levels of political leadership. This shadow network is the exact mechanism the White House is using to capitalize on the destruction it caused over the last 2 weeks. The military pressure created an opening, and now diplomats are rushing in to exploit it. Both sides are feeling intense pressure to make these backdoor talks succeed, and it's coming from entirely outside the military theater. The global economy is staring down the barrel of a major crisis. Look closely at this map of the Strait of Hormuz. A massive percentage of the world's daily oil supply is crammed into this narrow waterway, right in the middle of the conflict zone. Even a minor disruption here sends shockwaves across the planet. If ships can't safely navigate the strait, global fuel prices will instantly spike, supply chains will fracture, and nations far removed from the Middle East will face runaway inflation. That geographic reality has Gulf nations frantically lobbying both Washington and Tehran to maintain the quiet. They are desperate to protect these massive commercial assets from getting caught in the crossfire. The extreme fragility of this economic corridor acts as a relentless ticking clock. If negotiators don't make concrete progress quickly, financial markets will panic, and the economic damage will become irreversible. What we are watching is the aggressive application of a specific doctrine: peace through leverage. You hit the adversary until you maximize your advantage, and then you stop just long enough to see if they'll bend. But this strategy creates an incredibly unstable environment. The entire American defense establishment remains locked in place, maintaining enormous pressure on a situation that could collapse at any second. The next 48 to 72 hours will dictate the future of the region. Diplomats have a tiny window to cement this understanding before the momentum stalls and the respective militaries decide the pause has outlived its usefulness. All it takes is one mistake, a single new kinetic strike by either side, whether intentional or an accident of miscommunication, will instantly vaporize the Omani back channel and restart the bombing. The conflict hasn't ended. The missiles have stopped flying for now, but the imminent threat of renewed violence is the only thing holding these fragile negotiations together.